All right, we're going to get started 7:01. We're scheduled for 45 minutes. First of all, I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us tonight for Grassroots Coaching 101. This was a fun title that we came up with me and the marketing person in the Cincinnati office for Ohio Soccer, Joe Gould. My name is Brad Evans, previously of Ohio North Youth Soccer, now of Ohio Soccer Association, part of the coaching education team. Joining me on the call tonight is the godfather, Tom Turner, and I don't use that term loosely just because he's a little bit older. Tom's been around the Ohio soccer and coach education community for I don't want to say how many years, but plenty of years. Part of my I don't want to say success, but where I am in my career is in no small part due to the mentorship that Tom has provided in terms of coaching education opportunities, which is, I think, what you do as youth coaches. You provide guidance, you provide opportunities, and then hopefully the players that you work with have a positive experience and advance in the game at the level they want, at the enthusiasm and at the intensity they want. So we're going to get started. Just want to set the expectations on the night. Really, there's two primary expectations. We want to talk a little bit about what grassroots coaching courses are about, because they have changed over the past 5 years. And they have changed significantly over the past year due to COVID. And I want to make sure that everybody has a sense of what those changes are and what they might mean for you, as well as talk about opportunities to take courses. And then if there's anybody here who represents a league or a community or a club who might be interested in hosting a course in your area, we'll spend just a little bit of time on what it takes to host. And get something very local to you, because as we build an instructor base, we're able to host courses in all the corners of the state, and bring the opportunities right to you. So you don't, basically the way we would say is we don't want to just concentrate it in Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Toledo. We are able to come to any community and make this work for you. Question and answer. So because Tom's on the call, one of the tasks I've given to Tom is he's going to be monitoring the chat room. And as we cover information, if you have a question and want to type it into the chat room, go ahead and type it in, and Tom may answer it in real time for you, or Tom can interrupt to bring the question to the front so we can cover it. Otherwise, if you have questions, feel free to jot them down, and we'll be able to bring those up at the end, where we'll allow 5, 6, 7 minutes to go over questions that you might have about the course itself and taking one or hosting a course. So just a little background on grassroots coach education and why it was developed. And U.S. Soccer made this change, like I said, just close to 5 years ago, in changing the curriculum and the format of coaching education. And basically this was done as a response to a stagnation and even a decline in the number of players playing youth soccer in the US. And the numbers are significant. There is a significant problem. And most things, when you innovate something, it's due to a very large problem. The problem that we've been facing is this decline. The percentages, the Aspen Institute does a study of the state of play each year. Long story short, you're talking what would seem a small percentage, 3-4% decline in the number of players year over year. But when you're talking over 3 million registered players, that decline is approaching 100,000 kids a year who drop out of the sport. That's a significant number. And so we have to take a look and say, what can we do better as an association? And it starts with the coaching. And I think that the phrase that was used, and I call it a marketing phrase, but I think it's a slogan that's important: better coaches, better environment, better players. And so our goal here is to equip our coaches to provide an environment that players want to play, that players enjoy playing, and players are appropriately challenged. We know that when they do these things, they come back and participate in the sport longer. And even if you're thinking more globally and big picture, become lifelong fans of the game. These are players that the players, as they become adults, become season ticket holders at the Crew or FC Cincinnati, or consume soccer on TV, or attend national team games. So that's one of the objectives. And this last bullet point here, build a game-based soccer culture. And one of the things that we've learned, and Tom was really instrumental in teaching me about, is over the history of soccer in the US, it took on a very physical education sort of model. And what that might mean is that coaches who didn't have a big background in the game used physical education model to teach the sport. That might mean that I take a player or a team of players, and we'll work on an isolated technique for a significant portion of a practice, and then we'll go play a game. The problem was that when we did that, those techniques never really translated into the game. And furthermore, our players didn't understand how to play the game in what you might call an organized, in positions, and understanding how to read the game and play the game uh, at game speed. So our job is to find a way to help you as coaches do a better job of teaching the game to players. And if you were going to make a really simple slogan, and I think Tom floated the bumper sticker idea, it's basically, let's play more soccer. If you want to be better at soccer, let's play more soccer. So that's sort of the intent of the evolution of the grassroots coaching course. You'll see the diagram. Basically, what we're talking about today is the area that's circled. So US Soccer offers the 4 game models of coaching education courses at the grassroots level: 4v4, 7v7, 9v9, 11v11. They offer them in 2 formats. They offer an online version, and then they offer what's called an in-person version. What we're talking about for this meeting is the in-person courses. And we'll talk, because again, that's been COVID evolved as we go along. Grassroots coaching courses, as you can see on the slide, pretty simple, have 2 parts. They are considered a 4-hour course, the in-person courses. There is a classroom portion, which in COVID times, this is the big development. The classroom portion is now done in a virtual format. And one of the real advantages of the virtual format is that a course that used to take 4 hours of your Saturday or 4 hours of your Sunday now can be broken up. So we can offer the 2-hour classroom portion on a Friday evening, for example, from 7 to 9. And then on that Saturday, we could spend 9 to 11 doing the 2-hour in-person field version. We have found initially the response to this has been great. We've been running the blended version for our other coaching course formats, specifically the C licenses, which I've done several of. Tom and I are both involved in teaching D licenses around Ohio right now, which are all of the classroom work, which used to be done in person, is now done virtually. So you get more touch points. We can cover more ground in that time. You should know that the 2-hour field session, we work very diligently at making sure there are players there. In COVID times, depending on restrictions and whatnot, we might be back to the future where the coaches actually serve as the players. Right now, we are using youth players for our courses, and we feel like there will be no reason to turn the clock back anymore with the vaccine and the way things are trending positively with COVID. I just threw that in there as a possibility, but we're really working towards field players. One of the things you get when you register for a US soccer course is you get access to the practice plans that are built in for the format that you sign up for. If you sign up for a 7v7 course, then you'll get access to 24 practice plans, 12 attacking, 12 defending practices for that age group. So it's a bit of a bonus. And I think you have access to those for 1 year after the date of registration for the course. Virtual classroom. Um, so let's talk very quickly about instructors. So to become an instructor, and this is something that's changed and still evolving with U.S. soccer, to be an instructor for an in-person grassroots course, currently, U.S. Soccer has to certify you as a grassroots instructor. And there are steps and processes and coursework that the instructors have to go through to be able to teach it. I think what it means for you and the impact that it has on you is that you know when you sign up for a grassroots course, you're getting a U.S. Soccer certified instructor. That those people that we work very hard, and Tom has worked over his career very hard in training people and making sure they are capable and competent at providing the content that the coaches need. And that's an important piece because I think if you're going to spend time, you want to make sure your instructors are quality. And I think that we would say, and I know that with Ohio Soccer Association, we have the most outstanding staff without doubt. I don't want to say in the country because there's always somebody better, but with the number of licensed national staff instructors we have, I think we're doing a pretty good job here. So that's a humble brag on everybody in Ohio soccer. Good job, Tom. um, so here's a couple of bullet points that you can expect to get in the classroom portion. You're going to be introduced, if you haven't already done so, to the 6 tasks of a coach. The long story short on this is that when we played, and probably when most of you on the call grew up playing youth sports, the role of the coach seemed like intuitively you had to run practices and you had to coach the games. But I think as we've re-examined, and I think U.S. Soccer did a good job with this, I think it's important, they think it's important that we recognize that coaching is a little bit more than that. It's managing a performance environment at this level often means how do you deal with parents? That's a big deal for you. It's about how do you prepare training sessions in the game, but also how do you help create a positive team environment? In what ways can we include players in helping set team goals and help players understand what can they do to support positive team values? Um, Leading yourself. How do you get better? And the fact that you're all on this call is an important piece of the leadership component. You're actually taking a proactive step in bettering yourself for your players. So it's an interesting look into what a modern coach is, and I think that you could use the 6 tasks of a coach across any sport. So if you coach other sports in different seasons, I think you'd find that information helpful. One of the central tenets, the second bullet point on your screen about grassroots coaching in U.S. soccer is play, practice, play. Play, practice, play is a practice structure that has been developed to provide maximum effect for both coaches and players. And when I say maximum effect, we're talking about most touches on the ball, providing the opportunity for players to play in game-like settings. So instead of standing in a line in a drill, now we're creating activities that look like different versions of a game. We're defending something, we're attacking something. We're playing against a live opponent who's trying to defend something and attack something. And then there's different ways that you can mix the variables in that practice. But the idea is players come in and they're provided an opportunity to get active straight away. And anybody that's coached young players know players come in with an abundance of energy. They've come from different environments. So getting the players acclimated to the game straight away. Kids love competing, they love scoring, they love playing games. This provides that outlet for them. Play, practice, play, play one. The practice activity is designed around an idea, a theme that you want to help your team improve upon that night. Could be attacking, could be defending. So there's a practice activity in the middle. And then at the end, there is another play activity that's designed to use the theme of the practice in a bigger game. So it's not just chaotic free play, it's built around positional understanding, defending a goal, attacking a goal. They're learning how to play the game on the weekend better. So all of these opportunities, play, practice, play, you'll see it's player-centered. What does it mean to be player-centered? I think what U.S. Soccer has done, not what I think, what they've done is they've delivered on an understanding of how players learn. Players learn by doing. They learn by coaches showing them how to do. And it's this combination of doing and showing them how to do, which has the most significant impact on changing player behaviors. The other part is just simply understanding your players. And I think that's a big component of the course. And what do I mean by that? If you can imagine, when we grew up, we were 7 years old and I was in Ohio playing youth soccer, playing 11 versus 11. You can imagine the challenge in doing that. The players aren't big enough to fill the field space. Players at 7 years old aren't cognitively developed enough to understand how to share the ball even. So when we think about our own environments, we talk about making the game at the youngest ages about the player and the ball, because that's what they understand cognitively. We can harp on passing and spreading out at U6 all we want, but they don't understand the concept. What they understand is there is a toy, the ball, and they all want it, which is why they all go to it. So you can have two teams of 4, but that game really becomes 1 versus 7. One toy, 8 kids, who's got it and who's going to get it. And which is why you'll see at those young ages, kids from their own team will often come and steal it off their teammate because they see the ball, they want the ball. So it's me and my ball. So we talk about creating practices that provide players the joy of having the ball at their feet at those youngest ages. So we're using those ages and stages, we call them, to create an environment that suits each of those developmental benchmarks. And that's why the different play formats. So that's what I mean by understanding your players. On the field, so what happens in a field session is this: you'll have an opportunity to participate in executing a play practice play activity. We have instructors that will ask coaches in the course, you get to run play 1. And how do you physically set it up? And what we find that even practicing how to organize players, it's a skill and it takes time. And so with guidance and feedback, we can get better at organizing players for play 1. How to execute a practice activity. Is the field space appropriate? Oftentimes we see coaches make field spaces really small, oftentimes because that's what they have to work with. But we can help demonstrate, when you make a field space bigger, how does that impact players, providing more time and space. We talk about skill acquisition through play. Oftentimes the common question, and we've all dealt with this, is we have these play practice play activities. When are we teaching them how to kick a soccer ball? And the idea is it's both possible. We can show players how to execute the technique, but we also want to create activities that incentivize players to use those techniques, right? So now it's putting it in a game setting where they have a chance to repetitively do those skills. And now this is skill development in a game-based model. And then we talked about age-appropriate activities. We want to keep smaller numbers for small, younger players. Younger players need access to the ball. Older players, now we need more space where we can start to spread out and consider how and when to pass and when to dribble. Decision-making about, are we going to shoot? Are we going to dribble? And that's a big piece of all of this, as we talked about. Players have to learn how to make decisions within the game, because it is a 100% player decision-making game. There are course assignments, and I know it seems dreaded, but they're actually really quite simple. The course assignments are: in the pre-course, you watch a video and answer questions on safe and healthy playing environments. Nothing terribly complicated, nothing terribly time-consuming. And then after the 4-hour course, you're asked to answer questions on each of the 6 tasks of the coach. What you're comfortable with, what you would like to get better at. It is not time consuming. Again, it's a pretty straightforward process, but the idea of having you think about the experience you had and then what it means to you is an important piece of this learning process. So you go through it and then you reflect on it, and then you can go forward with your plan of how you're going to improve in the next stages. There is a time limit on that, and I only say that because we've had people take grassroots courses who didn't answer the reflection questions, and ultimately, just by default, you can't get the grassroots coaching license that you took. So you do have a window in there to complete it. Most people do it exceptionally well, and really do take time to consider what they've learned. So if you've never taken a grassroots course, there are just a few easy steps on how you register for a course. If you haven't done it, you go into learning.ussoccer.com and you create a profile. Pretty tidy, simple, it's free. Then once you've created a profile, you click on coaching education. From there, that landing page, coaching education, then kicks you into this image that I have on the screen. And you'll see the three boxes there. On the left-hand box where it says free intro course, the free intro course is the gatekeeper to all the coaching education courses that US Soccer has to offer. Without taking that free intro course, you're going to go in, you're going to try and register for a 9v9 course, and it won't let you. You have to take that free intro course. It's about 20 minutes or so of a series of videos, a couple of quick question and answers. I watched it again yesterday. Very straightforward, but informative. So once you take your free intro course, then you'll look on the right-hand box there with the blue arrow where it says register for a course. When you click on that, that'll take you to a landing page where then you can choose what format you want to take of an in-person course, 4v4, 7v7, 9v9, or 11v11. And then you simply select a course that you feel suits your needs in terms of geography, and then register for the course and take it. We have right now a number of courses, particularly in the southern half of the state, from Newark to Columbus. We've got a couple of Dayton courses, Cincinnati course. We've got a couple in Northwest Ohio and Toledo. So they're coming to you. I know we're talking about setting up 2 courses in Youngstown coming up for 7v7 and 11v11. So there's no shortage of courses, and I will talk about how you can get a course in your area. So hosting, so let's say you have a community and you're interested, or a club that you'd like to provide coaching courses for your coaches. It's really easy. All you need is field space. And I write in here that the field space appropriate for the game model. So if it's a 7v7 course, it's great to have a field that's the same size as a 7v7 field with build outlines and everything. That's an ideal. The reality is that we know in everyday soccer environments, you guys don't coach all the time with fields that are lined and movable goals and build outlines painted for you. And for us, that's no problem. If we have a patch of grass and kids and motivated coaches, will run the grassroots course for you. So I put this on here because it's an ideal, but it is not a necessity. Same thing with the access to age appropriate players. We love to have youth players. We love them to have equal to the game model that we're working. So a 7v7 course would be, ages 9 and 10. Again, that's the ideal. In reality, if you get a couple of 9-year-olds, a couple of 10-year-olds, and 3 12-year-olds, no problem. Because again, it's reality, right? You get a cross section of players, and we'll work with the players that you can bring. And then the format. This is the interesting part with this virtual format. We can construct it any way we want. We can do the virtual classroom a day or days before, and then do the field session. We can build them right on the same day. It's really up to what the organization's needs are and what works best with the schedule for those coaches. The other piece is that when organizations host a course, we then provide that course for their coaches at a reduced cost. So any hosting organization, those coaches are nominal fee. Right now it's $20 for each coach, where the regular cost is $40 for Ohio Soccer Association members, and then $60 for non-Ohio Soccer Association members. So it's advantageous to host one on sort of your home turf, so to speak. So what I'm going to do here is open this up for questions, and then obviously Tom may have a comment or two he'd like to chime in with. When you do a question, just feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask the question, but I'm going to open it up for Tom first because I think he's got something to contribute.
Actually, nothing in the chat room, Brad, of significance. Actually, there's chat, but it's no general questions. Just one thought to add, which is going back to the technique versus skill conversation. One of the I think the challenges is that we've had to overcome is just letting the kids experiment with the ball when they're playing. And a lot of what we do as we develop ourselves is the technical piece is our homework. And then when we go to practice, we play a lot of soccer. And that may be the best way to think about Brad's thought there, that there's a balance between the technique and the application of technique, which is so we just haven't gotten to the point, I think, as a soccer culture where there's sort of homework assignments and kids realize that that's their job. And it's almost like we do the homework at practice instead of actually helping them understand how the game works. And maybe that's philosophically just how those two things fit together. So with that, Brad, I will.
Yep. And I appreciate that, Tom. And that triggered another thought is that, and one of the things we did during COVID, which was really fascinating to me, COVID hit and soccer shut down. So as a state association, we were scrambling on how can we provide a positive service during this tough time. And so what we did is we created a webinar lecture speaker series. And we had all sorts, Dante Washington, from Crew. We had Shannon McMillan from the 99ers. We had Brad Friedel, who is from Bay Village up near Cleveland, who had an awesome professional career and with the national team. And then one of the speakers was Dr. Amanda Visick. And what she has done at George Washington University is done a study on what kids think is fun about sports. And it quantifies and qualifies from the player's perspective. And what is most fascinating is we have this idea in our heads, and me included, that when kids say they want to have fun, we immediately think we're going to create a goof off training where kids can just let loose and laugh and giggle and run around. What's interesting is that what kids defined as fun is being challenged, is learning, is being put in an opportunity where they can compete in meaningful competitive games. And what I mean by that, or the interpretation of that, is nobody likes to play games where they win 10-0 or lose 10-0. But kids would rather play in a game where they lose 3-2 than play in a blowout victory. And so one of the things that we learn from that is take that information, distill it into a practice environment. Can we recreate appropriate challenge where players learn and have a chance to compete? And that is fun for them. And the idea is if we create that environment, kids stay in the game. They love the game. They want to progress in the game. We don't drive them out of the game. So I think that's an interesting piece that I've learned about just in a more scientific way. And Tom, I know you've dug into that a lot with your own surveys, if you want to jump into that quickly.
I just sent everybody two links. One is Amanda Visick's. It was more of a chapter rather than formal research. So for those of you who get sweats when you think back to school and looking at research, it's more of an open chapter approach. And then the second one is a study that I actually finished, I think, last March, a year ago almost at this point, which had about 1,621 kids from around the country, including quite a few from Ohio. So you can see where the players give their responses to a lot of those situations, and it really sort of impacts I think the discussion about what soccer practice is and how the players are motivated or not motivated by what they come to.
Excellent. So we're going to pause here and let you guys ask questions. So we'll be silent for a few seconds while you unmute and fire away. Quiet group. What do they say? Jeff Pill would say that pause is pregnant with possibilities. For those of you who are English majors. Steve, you got a question?
Yeah, real quick. Good to see you guys. Thanks very much for the presentation, Tom. Good to see you.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah, nice to see you, mate. So for my sins, I just got voted as the chair of the Parks and Rec board in Kent. Not quite sure how that happened, but it did. So what? Yeah. What's the procedure to go through to get a grassroots course here? And particularly if I can put one on myself, which might make it more accessible and maybe keep the cost down even further. I don't know. Do I need to work with somebody to go through the 6 tasks of a coach, et cetera, et cetera?
So I think there's 2 questions in there, if I understand it. To get a course set up, you just email me, okay, and I'll provide that email address and we'll work through that. In terms of the instructor status, that's something that right now is US Soccer. You have to go through a formal process to be licensed as an instructor. However, there is, for a variety of reasons, the idea is to try and move that needle in a little bit different direction to open up the instructor pool and allow maybe more local control of training an instructor pool, I guess it is what it is at a more local level. And I know that Tom's had a few discussions about that possibility. So does that hit at the heart of your 2 questions, Steve?
Yeah, that helps. Thanks a lot, guys.
Actually, Steve, that question was actually discussed last week with them, so it's that recent.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll shoot you both an email and get it sorted. Thanks.
Other questions? Did you hit?
Hey, sure.
Sorry, go ahead. Somebody.
Audie, yep.
Yeah. Hey, have a quick question. Thanks for putting this on, guys. I'm part of a local association outside of Cleveland, small town called LaGrange. And is there a kind of a minimum number? If this is something that we wanted to host and invite our coaches to participate in, I think it would be great for us as an association to kind of make this a requirement. But is there kind of a minimum number of participants that you guys would need to see from us in order to kind of host this locally? I mean, even we're fairly close to Kent.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's an option for us as well. I just wanted, so I'll be coaching our U11s this year. My son will be moving up with me. He's a U10 though. And then I'll be coaching my younger son's team, which is U7. So interested in taking both courses. That's why I wanted to join the call today for 7v7 and then also 9v9. But wanted to know just what kind of information I could present to the association to, to see how many coaches we could get who are interested in going through the grassroots program with you guys.
Sure, Audie, I appreciate the question, and there's a couple of answers, not to overcomplicate it. We can run it. This is not a moneymaker for us. So if we have 6, 7 coaches, we can run a grassroots course locally because it's important. I think philosophically, this is not about making money. This is about trying to improve the environment, and we're passionate about that. I think the other piece is that if you get into the Learning Center and you start examining, we're running a 7v7 course in Manchester, which is just west of Akron here. coming up. We're going to be running a 7B711B11 in Youngstown here this summer. So there's going to be ones that are still going to be coming online in the Learning Center. And so when you look for course options and you pick your format, you'll see all the different ones that are available. But yeah, just email me, because part of this is we want to also coaches to feel valued, right? Because they don't have to travel, an hour and a half to go do a 2-hour course. We can come to you and we can make that happen. So, there's a value to your coaches for not having to travel.
Great. Yep. That sounds good. Well, I'll try and get an email over to you in the next couple of days. So appreciate that.
Good questions. Don't be hesitant to ask, because if you're thinking of a question, somebody else is thinking the same thing, more than likely. All right. So I will post my email address, is in the chat. Tom's is in there as well. So you have access to contact us about setting up courses and how we can help you. The other thing I think that we want to make sure that we stress to you guys is with the new state association. One of the things that I'm super impressed with, because I've come from the coaching side, not necessarily the admin side. One of the things I'm really impressed with the new association is the single-minded determination is to let volunteers and coaches do their thing. There is a ton of work going on behind the scenes on trying to simplify the lives for organizations, leagues, and coaches. And we know, we can see it sort of from the 10,000 foot level, how challenging it is for volunteers just to be registered to coach. The amount of paperwork, the videos, the this and the that you have to do. So our job as a state association, is to find ways to simplify that for you. That's a problem, and that's what they're working on. And then our job in coach education is to find ways to make it easier for your coaches to improve. And if that means coming to you, that's what we're going to do. I know, Tom's super passionate about this. I'm passionate about it, about helping our coaches create the best environment possible for their players. So anything we can do, let us know. That'll conclude tonight. If anybody wants to stick around and ask questions, we've got about 10 minutes before we have to jump on a C license call, but we'll hang out here and answer what we can. Thanks everybody for attending.
Thank you.